Hi, welcome to Cambridge University Botanic Garden. We're having a Facebook Live today. It's a beautiful sunny day and we're just waiting for a few people to arrive. It's bank holiday too, so it's sunny and it's the bank holiday, and we're here at Cambridge University Botanic Garden in the school's garden. Just to let you know that the school's garden is open today to the public because they're using the toilets, so you may hear people in the background. That's because we're a public garden. I just wanted to bring your attention first of all to our fantastic school's garden sign. Isn't it fantastic? So this must have been here 4 or 5 years, and it's never been this lively. And every time it gets sunny this year, which hasn't been that often so far, it goes crazy like this. And it seems like the bees have taken a little while to really find out that they've got a fantastic hotel here. So I just really wanted to share that with you because it's so beautiful and it's so active. And the great thing to know about your bug hotels is, and the reason why this one is so successful, is because it's south facing and it's really open in front of it. So if you want a top tip for the placement of your bug hotels, it's south facing with lots of open space in front so that the insects can come in and find it. We've also got a green roof on top, which I think really helps. So here we are at the school's garden. It's sunny, it's bank holiday, and I'm going to show you what we've got growing in the garden. Don't trip over that, Helen. We've got Helen here with me. She's going to ask any questions that you have, so please do ask any gardening questions to Helen and I'll try my best to answer them. Put them in the comments box and then Helen will read them out to me and I'll be able to answer them. I just wanted to start by showing you our lettuces. So since it was raining through May, the lettuces have gone mad and they look beautiful. But what's great about seeing the lettuces today is this middle row, which are my soft round lettuces. In about 3 weeks they're going to be ready to pick, so now's the time to start sowing another lot of lettuce so that I can replace that row when they come out. All of our vegetables go to the local church and they cook them or use them for meals for homeless people.
So Sandy, do you sow the lettuce direct?
No, I don't. I sow my lettuce in cell trays, but you can sow direct, but then of course they're at the whim of slugs and snails, so I prefer to start mine indoors. Here I've got the broad beans looking gorgeous. The great thing about seeing the broad beans like this is, so one of the pests and diseases that you get with broad beans is black fly. The black flies start in the soft tips of the plant. So when the bottom of the plant, the flowers are dying back and you're starting to get, I'll just pick one off and show you. You're starting to get these baby broad beans. So that's the time when you would pinch out the top of your broad bean plant. And what that does is, it stops the black fly from smothering that top bit, and so it sort of avoids the pests that you might get for broad beans. So here I've got my beetroot and spinach bed. It needs a bit of a weed. It's another thing that we do at the moment. But also here, just wanted to show you, I'm going to plant tromboncinos, which are a climbing squash that look like trombones. And once these are flowered, hopefully the tromboncinos will smother this and hang down with like really long squashes. So that's something to do now.
With any squash, any variety of squash, or is it particularly that one?
So
So
a lot of squashes like to climb, but obviously if you're using a big heavy squash, they might struggle to hang. So just be aware that if it's like big pumpkins, it's probably not an ideal. They're better off climbing along the ground than they are climbing up something, because they'll be too heavy to hang. I just wanted to show you this. This is the Angelica. Oh, people don't use Angelica too much now, but it looks so stunning in the garden. So I just wanted to share that with you. Here we've got our brassica bed. These 2 rows were the first things that I planted this year. These ones are red cabbages and they're not going to be ready till September. But these ones are kohlrabi and they look like little spaceships. I love them in the school's garden because the children really like them because they look like spaceships. And here I've got my calabrese or broccoli. If I can just show you, these are my potatoes. My potatoes are going to be earthed up, probably not today but early next week. I'm going to earth up my potatoes.
And what does that mean, Sandy, when you're earthing things?
So it means that I'll dig out the centre and put soil right up the stems, just leaving a little bit at the top. And what that does is potatoes grow from the stems of the potato plant. So when you earth them up, it means that potatoes will sprout from the stems. If you don't, you'll just get a handful in the bottom. Cool. So our herb bed, oh sorry, it's quite noisy in the background there. Our herb bed is going to be planted in the next couple of weeks with tender herbs like basil, and I'm going to get a local school group to do that. And earlier this week, strawberries were planted as a underplanting for the bush fruit, and that was by a local school too. Hope you're catching all that because we've got quite a lot of action here in the school's garden, which actually I really love. I like it when there's lots of people in here. And finally, the garlics are coming on really well and the spring onions are coming on really well.
And when did you plant those out, Sandy?
So the garlics I planted in autumn last year, October, November time, but the spring onions, they were I sowed them, multi-sowed them in cells in about early March, and then I planted them out about a month ago here in the school's garden.
We've got a question here from Caroline.
Great.
Can you give us some advice about sprouts? We planted some last year and wondering if they'll grow back again. They're currently covered in yellow flowers.
So your yellow flowers will look something like this. And that means that your brassica plant, which sprouts are, have gone to seed. Now I've left these aren't sprouts. These are another brassica, but they're really great for pollinators. If I weren't here, they would be smothered in hoverflies and the like. And they're also quite good sacrificial crop because aphids and blackflies are going on the tender parts of these rather than on my other plants, which is really helpful. So good for pollinators, good as a sacrificial crop, but not great for vegetables. So you won't get new sprouts. It's a bit late for sowing sprouts, if I'm honest. I would get some sprout seedlings from a garden centre and plant new sprouts. You've still got plenty of time for that. Okay. So the thing I'm going to be mostly talking about today is that I'm planting out all of my tender veg. I didn't plant them out before because they are hurt by frosts, and frosts went really late this year. The cold weather was all through April and right into May, and actually most of May's been really windy, and the weather hasn't been great. It hasn't been sunny like you'd expect. And the wind actually causes a lot of damage to these tender crops. I know a lot of people have planted them out at the usual time, which would be the second week in May, and they're looking yellow or they're looking crispy. Well, that's the wind actually. They've desiccated, and so they're really struggling. A lot of the plants that have gone out, all the beans and the courgettes and things like that have gone out a bit early. The other thing, sweet corns, people are saying, oh, they're looking really yellow. They'll probably come back, yeah, with a bit of time and a bit of warmth and a bit of water and hopefully less wind. They'll probably come back soon and start looking a lot healthier. So this is my bean bed. In this bed I'm putting beans, but I'm also putting courgettes. The reason why I'm putting them together is traditionally they go together, and actually people often use sweet corn for the beans to grow up. That's called the Three Sisters. I think that way of growing these crops came from America. American Indians used to grow them like this. So I don't grow sweet corn here because the deer just are desperately in love with the sweet corn, and the minute they start to become ripe, the deer start to eat them. So I still put my poles up for my runner beans. this week we had our first school group in, and they came and helped me plant some of them. So they planted a few of these runner beans, and I've just got a few extras that I'm going to plant in. So yeah.
So, because we've seen so much rain, how much should, it's from David, how much should we be watering the vegetable patch now?
Honestly, if you come and look at this here, this hole, it's not wet. Yeah, it's still quite dry, even though it's been raining. So I would still water. I mean, it depends on your soil. If you've got really heavy clay, it might hold the moisture better. And you can always check by digging a hole to see if it looks dark, see how wet it looks. But I never rely on the rain, because especially here in East Anglia, there's never enough rain to really do what is needed to support the growth of these plants. You have to remember, these are annuals. And we're asking a lot of them. We're asking these plants to give us a lot of fruit and vegetables, and to do a lot of work. And so they really need a lot of water. They need to be watered every day, every other day. They need to be looked after. I often say that actually the art in growing vegetables is to keep an eye on them and to give them a lot of care, because they are annuals, because they're growing in a season. When you check them daily, water them daily, you will see any problems that arise quite quickly, and so you're able to.
Before you put them in, the beans?
Sorry?
Do you water the beans before you put them in?
So I haven't watered them this morning, but they are still moist. I'll show you when I move the next one. They're still moist from yesterday, but after I've planted them, I like to water them in. And that is good practice, not because they need more water necessarily, but because they can be a little bit shocked that you've taken them out of one pot and put them in the ground. So it might be a different temperature, they might get different light. These have been hardened off. So I grew them in a warm greenhouse because they're tender. I didn't want the frosts to damage them. And then I moved them actually into my polytunnel, which isn't heated, for about a week. So they were protected from overnight when it was really cold, but they got used to a cooler temperature. And then I moved them outside in the day. So these beans are not runner beans. These are French beans, and some of them are sort of drying beans. So these are different types of beans. And so I just wanted to show you that. That's quite wet still. You can see it's quite dark, nice healthy root growth.
Plant these up, water them, and then when do you expect to harvest?
So I'll need to put some nets up for them to grow up, and I would say within about 6 to 8 weeks you're going to be harvesting from these. Some people wait a bit longer to sow their veg, to sow their beans. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you haven't sown your beans yet, you can still do it for another month or 6 weeks. I'm just going to quickly show you courgettes, okay? So here we've got courgettes. I'm planting them, but a good tip with courgettes. So courgettes grow about 1 metre, so about that big. The leaves will get that big. And you don't want to water directly on the leaves because it encourages problems. So what I do is I plant a litre pot, not directly next to it, but pretty close. And I water and I feed. Yeah, you're back with me, that's all right. We're going to go in the polytunnel.
Do you just want to explain again, because we lost the connection,
Okay.
just quickly about the watering?
Yeah, so I've planted a litre pot not far, about 50 centimetres, maybe actually 30 centimetres from my courgette. That's so I can water into there. That ensures that I'm not watering onto the leaves, because that encourages fungal diseases. They don't like to have their leaves watered, but also it encourages the water to go deep down, and that encourages the plant to search for water deep down as well. I also feed directly into there.
Are there any other vegetables you recommend to do that with other than courgette?
So I'll do that with my tromboncinos, with my gourds, all of the cucurbite family I do that with, just because they need a lot of watering, and also they need a lot of food, because they do, they give you such a lot of fruits. It's a really good tip.
And how often do you feed them?
I feed them weekly. Every 7 to 10 days I feed my courgettes. Okay, here we are in the polytunnel. Yay! It's really nice to get some vegetables in the polytunnel. Normally it would have happened, quite a few weeks ago. I would have brought more down here, but I've got some holes in the poly, so it's not totally protected at the moment. But here's my tomatoes. I sowed my tomatoes in January, and so they're quite big, and they've been sitting up in the heated greenhouse. And I've only just brought them down here, and I've strung them up. So a lot of people grow them up bamboo, but I like to use string, and I just give them a little sort of coax around the string as they grow up. The other thing that you might know about tomatoes is it's good to take out the side shoots. So here's the main stem, and here's the leaves, and just where they meet, often you get a new branch that comes out. If you take those, just rub them off before they get too big out, what you'll get is like a cordon, a really lovely one stem that comes all the way up. And actually by the end of the summer they'll reach the top of the poly, and that means that there's space around them for the air to get there, and the sunlight to get there, which means that you won't get so many sort of pest problems, because you're giving it a really nice sort of free space for air. The other thing that I've got in here, which I've just done, which I really love, these are my cucumbers. So I've put a net up the side here, and I've put my cucumbers in. I've planted them actually quite deep. I've left a big lip, and that's because they grow like mad too. And you remember I said about the cucurbites, they give you a lot of fruit, they grow really rapidly. I leave a big lip so that I can feed and water them quite a lot in there.
I'm still in the past.
You're back.
Hi, back with me. Sorry, we seem to be having some problems with connectivity today. Hopefully you heard about what we've been doing in the polytunnel with our tomatoes, our cucumbers, our chili peppers, and our aubergines.
So I think we lost the connection around the aubergines. So we've got aubergines there.
Okay, so the aubergines are going in about a 5 litre pot. The reason for that is they grow about this big, and they're quite a big bushy plant with heavy fruits. So you need a reasonable sized pot so that they don't just tip over.
Did you plant them in the ground, Sandy, or do they need to be in a pot?
So you can plant them outdoors if you choose the right variety. So Slim Jim is quite a thin sort of Asian variety, and those will probably fruit if you put them in a really nice sunny position. Chili peppers, tomatoes, all of those things can do okay outside in the UK as long as they're in a really nice sunny position. So we've covered most of the tender veg that we're planting out at the moment. It is a beautiful weekend this weekend, and it is bank holiday. So if you do get a chance and you haven't got your tender veg out, now's the time. And over the next month, I would say start looking at your vegetables and think about what's going to be finish soon, ready to harvest, because things like radishes, things like lettuces, broad sort of middle of the year. I'm also doing a course here at the Botanic Garden, and that's on pests and diseases. So please do look at the adult learning on the website, Cambridge University Botanic Garden website, if you'd like to take part in one of my courses. And I really hope that you have a lovely bank holiday weekend and have happy gardening.